It all started because I accidentally poured hot water on my wife Sarah's assistant's hand. As a result, she locked me in the sauna for a grueling 8 hours. I was released just before I was about to lose consciousness. Sarah gave me a stern warning, telling me this was just a small lesson. She made it clear that if I ever hurt Mark again, she wouldn't be so lenient. Lying on the stretcher, I calmly agreed. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, I stood at the door of our home and could hear the lively conversation inside. "Sarah, you dislike John so much. Why don't you just get a divorce?" a friend asked. Sarah clicked her tongue in annoyance. "My mother said if I initiate the divorce, she'll give the company away. I don't know what John has done to charm her," she said impatiently. Mark chimed in. "Sarah, I think he's just after your family's money." Everyone seemed to agree. I didn't stand at the doorway feeling sorry for myself as I used to. I simply walked right in. The room fell silent instantly when they saw me. Sarah turned to me and said, "What bad luck. It's Mark's birthday today. Go stay at the house in the suburbs for 2 days. Don't ruin our fun." Everyone was watching me, waiting to see if I would lose my temper. Usually when Sarah provoked me, my reactions provided them with amusement, but not this time. I simply said, "Okay," and shut the bedroom door. Lying on the bed, I received a message from Sarah's mother. "John, are you really thinking of leaving Sarah?" I looked at the photo on Sarah's nightstand. It showed her beaming, arm in arm with another man, and it had been there since I moved in. Once, I accidentally knocked it over while cleaning, and she screamed at me. I replied to her mother, "Aunt, as you know, I started this because of you. Now that Sarah's over it, there's no point in continuing." She sighed regretfully and said, "Too bad. I'll transfer the money I promised to your account after it's all over." I stared at the photo, then finally replied, "Okay, thank you." Having stayed for 6 years for Sarah, it was time I lived my own life. After the call, I couldn't shake off the feeling of finality. The door suddenly opened, and Sarah came in with Mark. "Change the sheets. Mark is staying over," she ordered. Mark gave me a look of pity and said, "Sarah, no need. I don't want John to feel bad." Sarah glared at me. "Hurry up and change them." I couldn't help but chuckle at Mark's face, which looked somewhat like the man in the photo. If someone else can make her happy, I guess my job is done. We'll go our separate ways from here. Mark whispered something to Sarah, making her eyes light up. "John, you don't need to move out. I'm used to you being here. Stay," she said. Her usual demeaning tone didn't faze me. I went to the cabinet, took out a box of condoms, and handed it to them. "We're not divorced yet. If you get pregnant, it might not look good for the company." Sarah was momentarily dumbfounded, holding the box. I placed it in her hand and left. While lying in the guest room, my email pinged with a new message. "John, congratulations on your acceptance to our school's jewelry design program. Please report soon." Reading this email, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. It made me smile. Finally, a step forward in my stagnant life. The next morning, Sarah's assistant was in the living room when I got up. Looking at the folder she held, I said, "If you have something to do, go ahead. I'll get it signed." With a hesitant glance at her watch, she handed me the folder and left. I slipped the divorce papers into the folder and started making breakfast. When Sarah got up, I was eating noodles. She looked at me disdainfully. "You're eating that? I want porridge." Finishing my meal, I handed her the folder. "The assistant sent this over this morning." Without a glance, she signed it, taking the chance to criticize me for taking her assistant's job. With the folder in hand, I prepared to leave. "I'm heading to the hospital later," I told her calmly. Sarah wanted to demand porridge, but Mark came out of the bedroom. "Sarah, am I up late?" As she turned to talk to him, I left, not seeing her loaded expression. Outside, I pulled the divorce papers from the folder. Maybe it was our years together that made her not even look at the documents before signing the divorce. The cooling-off period is 30 days. After that, I leave. Returning from the law firm, I went to pack my things. Seeing me, Sarah looked surprised. "Didn't I say you didn't need to move?" I paused, saying dismissively, "Now that Mark's here, it's inconvenient for me to come and go." Her words caught in her throat. Since returning from the hospital, she had noticed I was a bit different. Before she could ask, Mark called for dinner. Sarah went out, and I closed my eyes while packing. Looking at the small amount of clothes I had, I sighed to myself. 6 years of marriage, and this collection was all I owned here. After packing up my clothes, I put the gift I got for Sarah in a trash bag. We had been married for so long, and for every holiday and birthday, I prepared something for her. Now they were just collecting dust in a corner. If that's the case, there's no point in keeping them around anymore. As I dragged my suitcase to the guest room, Mark happily invited me to eat with them. Sarah was clumsily peeling shrimp for him and didn't even glance at me. I forced a smile and politely said, "No thanks, you guys go ahead." Sarah looked up at me for the first time when she heard that. I calmly averted my gaze and walked toward the guest room. "Wait," Sarah suddenly called out to me. I turned back, confused, and looked at her. "Come eat with us," she said, sounding a bit awkward. I looked at her, surprised, but ended up refusing. Sarah seemed frustrated by my refusal, snapping, "Eat if you want or don't." After setting down my luggage, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My face was fair and delicate, but when I tried to smile, it felt like I was wearing a mask. There was an indescribable exhaustion in my eyes. I chuckled bitterly. I hardly looked like someone in their 20s. Just hang in there a little longer, and I'll finally be free, I thought. I was on the edge of sleep when Sarah barged in, panicked. "John, come with me to take Mark to the hospital. He burned his hand." I frowned, thinking of refusing, but Sarah already had me out the door. "Sarah, don't bother John with a hospital visit. I'm fine, just a little sting," Mark said, holding his burned hand. I noticed the drops of chili oil on his hand looked painful. "Burns can be serious or minor, but they might leave scars," Sarah said anxiously. Watching all this, my eyes drifted to the scar on my own hand. That day when Sarah had friends over for hot pot, Mark had deliberately poured the boiling soup on my hand. I was about to confront him, but Sarah shielded him, giving me a contemptuous look. "Mark didn't do it on purpose. You seem fine, so stop making a fuss." In the end, I took some painkillers to dull the pain and went to the hospital by myself. The scar stayed there. Seeing Sarah so worried now made me realize she knew burns could scar, but back then, it was only me who got hurt. As we took Mark to the hospital, we hit the evening rush hour. Sarah kept urging me to drive faster. Once the light turned green, a car suddenly veered out of control, heading straight for us. The moment we collided, I felt a crushing pain in my lower body. Sarah's voice came from the back seat, urgent. "John, how are you feeling? The ambulance is on its way. Hang in there." Hearing her voice, I realized she seemed fine. The back of the car must have hit the crash barrier. "John?" she started again, but Mark's cries of pain interrupted. "Mark, where are you hurt? What hurts?" "I'm just in a bit of pain in my hand. Don't worry about me. John seems really hurt." "Go check on him," Mark whispered weakly. Sarah was even more distressed by his words. She told him to hold on. The ambulance would be there soon. When the ambulance arrived, Sarah led the EMTs toward Mark. "Here's someone injured. Come quickly." The urgency in her voice made them think it was serious, so one went with her. Before long, I heard the doctor's stern voice. "This is a waste of our time. He's fine." Sarah, who usually cared about her image, threw a fit at the scene of the accident, yelling about filing a complaint for neglect. The doctor reluctantly bandaged Mark up. As Sarah was about to take Mark to the hospital, she finally noticed the injuries on my legs. She froze, true panic in her eyes for the first time. "John, does it hurt? I'll find you the best doctor." Mark quietly said, "John, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have gotten Sarah to take me to the hospital. I should have just handled the pain myself to avoid all this." His pitiful demeanor tugged at Sarah's heartstrings. She rushed back to comfort him and forgot about me completely. When the medical staff asked if I had any family, I calmly closed my eyes and said no. "Let's go," the medical staff said. "At the hospital, I needed emergency surgery." "You'll need to stay in the hospital for a while," the doctor said. I nodded and asked if he could arrange an aide for me. Surprisingly, on the third day of my hospital stay, Sarah visited with a lunchbox. She checked my wounds with a slight tone of reproach. "Why didn't you tell me you were hurt this badly?" I smiled at her question. When she saw my smile, she hesitated, her face showing a hint of embarrassment. "I was distracted by Mark's injury that day. I didn't notice you were hurt too," she explained. "Yeah, I'm fine. You should go take care of Mark," I said calmly. She paused, a trace of displeasure on her face at being turned down, but she managed to hold it back. Seeing my pale face, she offered, "I had the housekeeper prepare you some nourishing meals. You should eat." I glanced at the shrimp in the box, gently pushing it away. "No, thank you." Before I finished, Sarah abruptly tossed the food onto the floor. "John, you're so ungrateful. Eat it if you want or don't," she snapped and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I looked at the mess on the floor and buzzed for the nurse to help clean up. The nurse glanced at the spilled food and said, puzzled, "Didn't the doctor say you could only have liquids for now? Seems like the person bringing you meals isn't paying much attention." I just smiled without responding. After that day, Sarah never showed up again. Mark sent me pictures every day. Sarah and him watching the sunrise, stargazing, and trips to the racetrack. The day before I was discharged, Mark sent me their flight tickets to Europe. I always said one line, and Sarah made it happen. I didn't reply. Instead, I listened carefully to the doctor's instructions. After getting home, I went straight to my room, grabbed my suitcase, and left the divorce papers on the table. Without hesitation, I left this cage I had lived in for 6 years. Goodbye, Sarah. Sitting on the plane heading abroad, I looked out at the clouds and couldn't help but laugh. After frittering away 6 years, I was finally free to go find my own life. As soon as the plane landed, I got a message on my phone. "You have received 50 million. After that, I immediately canceled my phone number, cutting off any way for Sarah to contact me. After taking care of everything, I headed straight to the school to check in and move into the dorm. That night I had the best sleep I'd had in forever. In my dreams, I saw myself from 6 years ago when I was in college. A roommate falsely accused me of theft, and the whole school knew about it. When the counselor took me to the principal's office, no matter how much I denied it, they insisted I was guilty, demanding compensation and an apology. I asked for a police investigation, but the principal and counselor stopped me. Just when they were about to force me to write a confession, Sarah's mother swooped in, saved me from their clutches, and called the cops. Later, I found out that the principal and counselor had taken money from my roommate to ensure I wouldn't qualify to study abroad. After everything settled, I formally thanked her for her help. She sighed and said, "If you really want to thank me, do me a favor." Then she told me about Sarah and her first love, Henry. They grew up together, but the day before their wedding, Henry died in an accident trying to save Sarah. After Sarah woke up and learned about it, she was devastated, rarely leaving her room. They say the best way to forget someone is to start a new relationship. Her mother asked me to help Sarah move on, promising money once it was over. Grateful for her help and understanding a mother's desperation, I agreed. After a chance meeting, I started pursuing Sarah. Eventually, under her mother's encouragement, we got married. People said I was love-struck, that I lost all pride for a woman. Others claimed I was after her family's money. I tried my best for her over these 6 years, but I couldn't compete with someone who looked like Henry. Now that Mark was around, I could finally leave Sarah behind. The next day, my new academic journey began. Campus life was vibrant. Besides classes, I joined a ton of extracurriculars. With the $50 million from Sarah's mother, I could live freely and happily. While I was enjoying my newfound freedom, Sarah was in a very different place. When she returned from Europe, she instinctively called out my name, but I wasn't there to respond. Sarah frowned, asking the housekeeper why I wasn't back yet. After some reluctance, the housekeeper finally confessed I had already left. Sarah waved it off casually, saying not to bother looking for me. "John's just bluffing, trying to scare me. Let him be." But her words caught in her throat when she spotted the divorce agreement I left on the table. As she stared at the signed papers, she remembered the contract I handed her that day. Fury burned in her eyes. "John, you've really outdone yourself." She couldn't believe I wanted a divorce. After all, I had always seemed devoted just to her. Everyone called me her lapdog. How could I just leave so easily? Sarah convinced herself I would come back. Meanwhile, her family walked on eggshells, terrified of setting her off. It wasn't until her mom handed her the divorce certificate that she realized I was gone for good. Sarah's face shifted from confusion to rage in an instant. She couldn't fathom I had been planning this for a month. Having spent 6 years with me, the abrupt end left Sarah struggling to imagine her life now. Her mom told her about the agreement we had. Sarah refused to believe that everything I did for her was just a repayment of a debt. From the day we got our marriage certificate, I kept a divorce agreement ready, reminding myself, but people aren't machines. Feelings grew when I started to care for Sarah. She shattered my hopes repeatedly. Sarah kept trying to call me, but I never answered. In frustration, she threw her phone at the wall. "John, don't ever show your face to me again," she screamed. While abroad, I ran into an old college buddy, David. He was the only one who stood by me during the false accusations. Back then, he warned me not to repay kindness this way, but I didn't listen. I never expected he'd end up teaching at the same school. It was through him that I heard the latest about Sarah. "Did you hear? Sarah's getting engaged to that male assistant." I paused mid-bite, but kept a straight face. "Makes sense," I replied. "Mark looks just like Henry," David said. Sarah's engagement party was a big deal. Practically all the well-known families were invited. People in the circle said she must be serious about it. Otherwise, why make such a fuss? Especially since she didn't even want to have a wedding with her last fiancé. When I heard this, I didn't feel a thing. When I was with Sarah, it was just a task for me, let alone after everything she did. Now, knowing she's getting engaged, I actually felt relieved. What caught me off guard was a week later when David came to me with gossip. Sarah ran off on her engagement day. Just hearing his excited voice, I knew things must have gotten dramatic. On the day of her engagement, Sarah told everyone she regretted it, saying she loved someone else. Mark went nuts at the scene. Sarah got fed up with him and kicked him out. After telling me all this, David added mysteriously, "The day after the engagement, Sarah started asking around about you. She asked a lot of your friends if they knew where you were. She somehow managed to track me down through someone." I asked, confused, "Did something get into her?" David sipped his coffee and then told me, "After I left, Sarah had a fever for 3 days. Back when I was around, I took care of her 24/7. Now, with nobody putting her first, she started missing how attentive I was. Plus, after I left, some of her friends started saying how considerate I was for various reasons. Sarah became desperate to find me. Too bad she asked everyone, and no one knew where I was. She even went to her mom, who told her she gave me some money and hadn't contacted me since. Sarah seemed to have gone mad, leaving her company affairs aside, only thinking about finding me. After hearing all this, I just sighed. She really lost her mind. Someone who used to find even looking at me annoying is now frantically searching for me. Crazy, right? But none of this affected my feelings anymore. After that day, I rarely heard news about Sarah, fully focusing on my studies. While continuing my education, David and I started a jewelry designer brand. It took me 6 years, but I finally started living the life I wanted. Time flew by, and it was graduation season again. I finally experienced my long-overdue graduation ceremony. Handing me a speech, David asked what my plans were. The brand we started had grown quite popular thanks to our hard work. Plenty of people sought us out to design jewelry. After some thought, I honestly said, I want to go back home. David agreed since our clientele was mainly based there. Still, he hesitated. Sarah's been asking about you for years. If my family hadn't intervened, she might have found you by now, he warned. Going back, she'll probably find you quickly. Are you sure? I shook my head and said, I have to face it sooner or later. Can't avoid going home forever. The day after the ceremony, I packed my bags and headed back. When the plane landed, the scenery was both familiar and foreign. Taking a deep breath, I reminded myself it's a new beginning back home. While looking for a store location, we began planning a small jewelry exhibition. I took a day to visit my mom's grave. Seeing fresh sunflowers there puzzled me. Sarah always brought sunflowers. As I sat chatting with my mom about recent events, a relative passed by. Hey, John, you graduated and came back. I have to say, your wife is amazing. I stared in confusion. In the years you were away, she visited on holidays and donated under your name to help fix village roads. Everyone here knows you found a great wife. Hearing this left me even more confused about Sarah's intentions, but there wasn't much time to dwell. Once we settled the store location, I got busy with the shop renovations. Some jewelry for the exhibition was still under design. I was busy and fulfilled every day with no time to think about Sarah. The day before the jewelry show, I spotted Sarah's name on the guest list. Concerned, David offered, If you don't want to face her, I can handle things. Unfazed, I shook my head. As long as I'm here, we'll come across each other sooner or later. Reassured, David nodded. On the day of the exhibition, visitors flocked in, following signs into the gallery. From the second floor, I easily spotted Sarah among the crowd. She looked more worn out, her eyes carrying fatigue. I watched as she abruptly stopped in front of one of my necklace designs, her eyes welling up. Soon, a staff member informed me someone bought all my designs, requesting to meet me. I agreed. In the instant I opened the conference room door, Sarah rushed forward to hug me, her voice choked up. John, I finally found you. Where have you been all these years? I've looked in so many countries. I gently pushed her away, maintaining a calm demeanor, and spoke softly. Miss Sarah, why did you want to see me? When Sarah heard what I called her, she looked kind of confused for a moment. John, what did you call me? I repeated what I had just said. Back when we just got married, I used to call her by her name, but Sarah had given me this disdainful look and said, We're not on a first-name basis, are we? Sarah looked at me with teary eyes. No, you can call me Sarah. Didn't you used to call me that? I frowned a bit. Miss Sarah, I don't think we're on a first-name basis, are we? The words I once said to her came back around like a boomerang, leaving her stunned for a few seconds. I used that moment to say goodbye. Miss Sarah, let's not dwell on the past. It's time to move on. Thanks for liking my designs, but I've got something to attend to, so I'll take my leave. I didn't wait for a response before walking out of the meeting room. My debts to her family were settled long ago. Sarah and I are just strangers now. I didn't think she'd turn up at the store the next day, holding a bunch of red roses. I looked at her puzzled. Everything I needed to say was said yesterday. What else is left between us? After a few minutes of staring in silence, Sarah finally spoke. John, why did you divorce me? I looked at her calmly. Once I did what I had to, of course, I had to leave. From the day I left, I knew Sarah would eventually find out about the promise I'd made to her mom. So I told her honestly, then and there. She looked at me, eyes wide with disbelief. I don't believe it, John. I don't believe your look and all the kindness were fake. You might deny it, but your eyes don't lie. I let out a cold laugh. Does it matter now? We're over already. Or are you trying to prove your charm? Sarah shook her head, denying, No, I just want to know if you ever loved me. Without hesitation, I said no. From start to finish, it was about the promise to your mom. I was with you out of gratitude. Our relationship began with a purpose. How could there be love? Her face turned pale as I spoke. Whatever reaction she has now, I don't care. I just want to wrap this up and rid myself of her. I don't want to see her in my future. Yet this proud woman kept showing up every day after that conversation, and with red roses each time. Every time I threw them in the trash. I let out a cold laugh. Being married to her for so long, she still doesn't get me. Red roses that need attention aren't my thing. I like roses that symbolize endless hope. The 10th time I planned to ditch her gifts, Sarah finally stopped me. Her face showed displeasure, but she kept her voice controlled. John, why won't you accept my gifts? I showed no mercy. Do you know what our relationship is? Why should I take your things? I don't accept gifts from strangers. Sarah denied it. After 6 years of marriage, how could we be strangers? I let out a small laugh. Those 6 years were colder than strangers. She'd be gone for a week, and even went home. She'd boss me around. I looked at her and asked the question that had been bugging me. Sarah, shouldn't you be happy I filed for divorce? Now you can marry Mark. Why bother me? She took a deep breath, and through her teary eyes, she said, No, I don't want to marry Mark. I was just briefly infatuated because he looks like Henry. Truth is, I'd been used to you. No, I'd fallen for you long ago. I just ignored my feelings because of my fixation on Henry. Listening to how she missed me after I left, I finally understood why she did this. I directly cut through her endless apologies. Sarah, can't your family afford a maid? What you just said doesn't show any love for me. You're just used to having me around. Do you really think you love me? You're just fooling yourself. Sarah's face turned grim after hearing that. She always thought she loved me truly, but when I ruthlessly exposed her real thoughts, her face showed disbelief. Before she could justify herself again, I cut her off coldly. Sarah, since we're apart, let's leave it at that. We should live our own lives and never cross paths again. After those words, I turned and left, and Sarah stopped appearing in front of me after that. Yet, any time I went home, I felt a hot gaze on my back. David asked if he should take care of it for me. I refused. Let Sarah follow, if she wants. Nothing she does now will affect my life. No need to waste resources on her. During this time, a client offered extra money for a rush job on a set of wedding jewelry. I've been working till midnight, heading home at 12. The day I finished the designs, it was already 2 a.m. when I left the office that night. I felt like someone besides Sarah was tailing me, so I quickened my pace. But as I approached the neighborhood gate, Mark jumped out of the bushes with a knife. John, I finally found you. Seeing the crazed look on his face, I stepped back and coldly asked what he wanted. Mark screamed at me with a furious expression. It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, I would have had Sarah by now. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in this mess. A few days ago, I heard from a friend that Sarah had fired Mark and told others in the industry never to hire him again. In the business world, many people give Sarah some face for that. Plus, Mark had his own issues, so life's been getting worse for him by the day. Now he's blaming all his misfortunes on me. With bitterness clouding his judgment, Mark charged at me with a knife. As I backed away, I stumbled and fell to the ground. In a split second, I thought to myself, today must be my unlucky day. Just as the knife was about to strike, someone suddenly jumped in front of me. The knife that was meant for me ended up hitting Sarah instead. Seeing the woman lying in a pool of blood, I felt dazed. I couldn't understand why she would do such a thing. Mark, seeing his knife hit Sarah, couldn't help but shout, "Do you really love him this much? You said you loved me before." But before he could get a response from Sarah, the security from the apartment complex subdued him. Sarah scanned me over, and only after seeing I was okay did she relax and smile. "John, as long as you're fine." I didn't respond, just stared at her in a daze. The ambulance quickly rushed us to the hospital. I sat in front of the operating room, staring at the word surgery with my mind blank. I never thought Sarah actually liked me, but today she jumped in front of me without hesitation. Sarah's mom quickly arrived at the hospital. She looked at me with some disapproval in her eyes. "Since you left, why come back? If I had known this would happen, I would have never sought you out." Her words wiped away all my hesitation. "To be honest, you're partly to blame for Sarah ending up like this." Just as she was about to say more, the operating room door opened. She hurriedly went to ask the doctor about Sarah's condition. As soon as the doctor said there was no major problem, I turned and left. She was full of resentment seeing me leave without hesitation. But due to my recent success, she couldn't do anything. I thought after this, she would stop Sarah from seeing me. But surprisingly, within a week, I got a call from her. Her tone was anxious, almost pleading. "John, can you come to the hospital to see Sarah? I'm begging you." When I showed up, the buzzing conversation in the room suddenly fell silent. "You've already cut ties with them. Now that this happened to Sarah because of you, her mom won't let it slide," David said. I patted his shoulder to reassure him. I'm not the naive guy I used to be. When I got to the hospital and saw a barely recognizable Sarah, I was shocked. When she saw me, her eyes lit up a bit. "John, you're here. Do I look really ugly now?" Seeing the frustrated and helpless people around her, I instantly realized Sarah was using a hunger strike to threaten them. "Sarah, this is the last time I'll see you. The 6 years I wasted on you are enough. I don't want anything to do with you in the future." Ignoring the hurt in Sarah's eyes, I continued, "Whether you go on a hunger strike or do something drastic, it's none of my business. Please don't disturb my life anymore." With that, I didn't look at her again and turned to leave. After that day, I never took a call from them again. The chapter between Sarah and me is closed. Life is long, and there's nothing you can't get past, only a bright future ahead.